dirt bike, rides as nice as it looks. Very long bike, so it almost has a suspension to it. Went down the road beautifully.
The 2002 premiere of the reality television series American Chopper spawned the TV career of Paul Teutul Jr., a designer and fabricator of customized motorcycles. The popularity of the series made him a celebrity, along with his father, Paul Sr., and younger brother Michael. He also built his own company called Paul Jr. Designs after he had a fiery argument with his father that led to his termination from the family business, Orange County Choppers. Paul Michael Teutul Jr. was born on the 2nd of October 1974 in Orange County, New York State, to parents Paula and Paul Teutul Sr. He is the eldest child and was raised in a relatively low-income household with younger siblings Michael, Daniel, and Kristen. His father was very much into the alcohol and drug scene, which created a dysfunctional vibe in the family. However, Paul Sr. faced his demons by participating in AA meetings and eventually overcame his problems in 1985. However, Paul Jr.'s parents subsequently filed for a divorce in 1995 after 26 years of marriage. As early as 12 years of age, Paul Jr. would spend all his summers being an apprentice in his father's business, Orange County Ironworks. He went to a vocational high school to learn more about welding, only to find out that he had more experience than his teacher. He was also offered an opportunity to be part of a program run by the Board of Cooperative Educational Services, which further enhanced his skills. By his senior year, he was fully equipped to go and work with his father, and he never looked back. From his exposure to the steel business, he knew early on in life what he wanted to be, but he never cut corners just because the owner of the business was his father. He started at the bottom, sweeping floors, running errands, and assisting everyone. Later on, his father made him the head of the railing shop, in which he made and painted railings. Then, Paul Sr. decided that he wanted to build motorcycles just for fun and asked his son to join him, as he realized that his son had a knack for designing and fabricating motorcycles. In 1999, Paul Jr. left the railing shop to assist his father in establishing Orange County Choppers, OCC, and started fabricating and building motorcycles for the company. It took him 2 years to learn how to build a bike properly, and then he got creative. As the years went by, he continued exploring more possibilities with his designs. Initially, his father's business went up and down, but they were already attracting notice in the motorcycling community and received a call from the production company Pilgrim Films and Television, offering them a chance to star in a reality TV series that would feature their operations. It didn't take long for Paul Jr., his younger brother Michael, and his father to agree. In just 6 weeks after the first call, they were already able to film their pilot episode. They were joined by other OCC fabricators and technicians, such as Rick Petco, Vincent DiMartino, Nick Hansford, and Cody Connolly. Discovery Channel aired 2 pilot episodes to gauge public reaction to the show. When the family watched it, they were disappointed and thought that no one would take an interest, especially since the production crew included arguments that father and son had, which they worried would have an effect on their credibility as motorbike builders. However, by the following day, they were surprised that around 1,000 positive emails were received, which felt surreal to them. They were shocked when they learned that the TV rating for the pilot was the highest among all shown that night. So, the first season of the series was aired from the 31st of March 2003 to the 10th of May 2004, consisting of 29 episodes. In the first 2 episodes of their TV series, they featured the Black Widow bike, which was designed and fabricated primarily by Paul Jr. Fans quickly noticed his obsession with spiders, but it primarily showed that the men in OCC had legitimate skills in building customized motorcycles. Paul Jr. revamped it and was featured again in a 2012 episode of American Chopper. It was interesting to note that he removed the original OCC logo and replaced it with his own logo, which sparked a debate among the devoted fans on the internet. Fans knew from the get-go that Paul Sr. and Paul Jr. had a volatile relationship, and neither were shy in voicing their opinions. It was normal for them to scream at each other during arguments, so viewers weren't shocked anymore that the two were arguing again in September 2008, but they were stunned that Paul Jr. was fired by his father on national TV, apparently because his father had had enough of him coming to work late. His father required all staff to be in the shop by 7 a.m., but Paul Jr. would report past 8 a.m., saying that he gets everything done by the end of the day anyway. He even told his father that if he wasn't involved in the business, it would have long been burned to the ground. It went downhill from there, and when he threw a chair in his father's office, his father fired him on the spot. American Chopper was first aired on Discovery Channel, but in 2007, it was transferred to its sister channel TLC. After Paul Jr. was fired by his father, he was served a notice of default because of his absence from the show. TLC executives then modified his TV contract, and Paul Jr. returned to the show as an independent contractor, but left the show in business for good in April 2009, although under a non-compete clause. Subsequently, Paul Jr. Designs was launched a year later in April 2010, after the non-compete clause ended. Looking back, he said that his father did him a huge favor when he fired him. Although it took him a while to realize the benefits of striking out on his own, he said that he was glad he got out from his father's controlling nature to discover that he could do more. He also believed that he was fired for financial reasons, because when he became part owner of his father's company, he was given 20% of its stock. He was pretty much convinced that his father wanted him to ask for his job back, but with less money, as it was scary to be jobless at 34 years old. However, he just waited for the contract to expire. That 1 year away from his father reminded Paul Jr. of how it was to have fun again. He shared that he lost it when he was working with his father, with a toxic environment in the workshop. Other people had told him that his relationship with his father wasn't right, but unhealthy. Within 1 year, all his creativity flowed freely, and he even worked with other companies, designing various tools and gadgets. By the time he could legally work on motorcycles, he was inspired to create all the best bikes under his own brand. He also successfully created motorcycle-related merchandise, including a clothing line and accessories. Aside from the motorcycle shop, Paul Jr. branched out by establishing PJD Studios. The company offers branding services, including logo designs, not only for print, but also digital animation. They have extensive knowledge of promotional strategies, so they offer marketing services as well. The next move was that the spin-off series, American Chopper, Sr. vs. Jr., was green-lighted in 2010, even though father and son were still at odds. Discovery Channel took advantage of the fact that fans were interested to see what would happen between the Tuttles, especially since Paul Sr. sued his son to force him to sell 20% share of the company back to him at zero value, which he got from an MPI appraisal report. Paul Jr. countersued, but the lower court ruled in favor of Paul Sr., so the son filed an appeal. After 14 months of going back to the courts, the appellate division sided with Paul Jr. and reversed the decision of the lower court. The father couldn't force the son to sell his 20% share at the price he wanted. It would be the court that would determine the price. However, the legal issues between father and son made enough marketing noise for the spin-off series, and sure enough, they still had the devoted audience when it premiered. It lasted for 4 seasons, with 67 episodes aired within 2 years, but their relationship still wasn't fixed, and the show was cancelled in 2012, after which father and son rarely spoke to one another. It was even reported that when Paul Jr. married, his father never showed up, even if he was invited. In 2018, the Tuttles were convinced to return to the small screen once again for the revival of their original show, American Chopper. Fans were surprised that they agreed to build motorcycles together again. Despite not talking for many years, Paul Sr. said, "The bottom line is that we do love each other, and we're able to do things together, as long as they're not work-related." Paul Jr. said that they would keep their identities and brands separate, not actually doing business together, but working creatively with his father once more. Paul Jr. wanted to bring fun back into their relationship dynamic because it would make things easier. He said that as a father to a little boy, he somehow understood his father a little better than before. These statements were quite different from the time he published the memoir, The Build, Designing My Life of Choppers, Family and Faith, in which he called his father a monster. He has indeed moved on from the past, as mentioned in one of his press interviews before the premiere of the first episode. The series only lasted for 2 seasons, with 15 episodes aired on Discovery Channel from March 2018 to March 2019, but it was enough for father and son to make peace with each other. In 2020, there was a clamor for them to make another TV series, and they relented, but only with a 2-hour special, which was aired on the 4th of August 2020. Fans were excited, as it was the first time that their companies, OCC and Paul Jr. Designs, would work to build a motorcycle for one client. Initially, they encountered a problem, as Paul Sr. didn't want his son to have any say in the design. They were also under time pressure, since the old OCC shop they would work in at the time was scheduled for demolition. The Tuttles were able to finish the motorcycle for the ABC Supply Company without a hitch, since Paul Jr. let his father control everything, as he only wanted a chance to have some fun building a bike with his father one last time. Paul married model actress Rachel Beister in August 2010, and they have a son named Hudson Seven Tuttle. While his business, Paul Jr. Designs, is thriving, as he has built and sold many bikes over the years, and even expanded. He's more focused now on building a great relationship with his son, whom he doesn't want to experience what he had with his own father. Each time he looked at his son, he was confused as to why his father was so competitive with him, instead of supporting him and saying that he wanted his own son to be better than him. He also said that he's blessed with a good wife who made sure he walked the right path, especially during uncertain times. Paul Jr. found Jesus when he was 12 years old and became a born-again Christian. But due to circumstances at his home at the time, he struggled with addiction. When he was 16, he entered a rehabilitation facility and turned his life around with the guiding hand of his mother. To this day, he knows that God is watching over him, as he's been given a family that inspires him to be the best that he can be. He would always give back all the glory to God, saying that his creativity and skills came from him, but also saying that the secret to success is to keep moving forward. As an indication of Paul Jr.'s success, according to authoritative sources, as of mid-2021, his net worth is estimated at over $2 million. Thank you for spending some time with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpick these videos which we recommend you watch next. You can talk to us on all social medias or ask a question in the comments below. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.